So with that being said, just great input there. How do we live out the gospel? If theology is important and it's, all the great things you guys said, how do we live out the gospel in, I guess, a Western mindset, comfortable kind of world? I mean, you have scriptures like pick up your cross and, Peter talking about suffering for Christ. And how do we do that when we're all wearing nudies here? And, well, those are jeans. If anyone didn't know, we're actually clothes, we're not nudie.
Like, what is this place I've landed in?
So, but yeah, I mean, Adele, you're a theological student. You're in the world, and you're doing life. You're trying to make a living. Like, how do we live out the gospel in a comfortable world?
Well, it's really interesting because I just did an assignment on how does the Bible shape a Christian life and how does it relate to the postmodern context. And
sounds like I set you up.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, so that comes under ethics. So this is such a broad topic because it includes a lot of grey areas, sexual abuse, things like that. Heavy topics that, are just, not in your everyday conversation. But basically, it does come down to relationship and then on a personal level, how you see God, the identity of God. Because the thing is, everything God is and what we believe in God. We know that He's looking out for us. We have faith, we have hope, we have love. And that's something we all have in common. Yet we are all sinners, but yet at the same time, we are so different. Like every single person here is so different and sees God and Jesus and theology in a completely different way. So to relate it back to people that do know God and people that don't know God, it comes down to the way, I guess, you present it as well. It's not like shove it in their face, but it's just being yourself, and your life is the witness. And we hear it all the time, but it is our responsibility to live the right life. It's our responsibility to take up the cross and live the life Jesus has planned and put us here as a purpose to do. And whether we take it or not is up to us. But in saying that, you can't force feed it. You can't force, it's okay to question, like I said, and your heart, if you believe in Jesus and you have faith, and it takes time to minister to people. They're not just going to get saved straight away. When you hear amazing stories that people get saved in their bedrooms and things like that. So it's just living the life that God has planned for you and knowing that although it's hard, you become a Christian and they say, oh, well, like you were saying, it's all dandy at first and it's all happy. And then once you get to know, you're like, why did I do this kind of thing? Why does this hurt? Why do I struggle? Why is it so hard? Yet, if it was easy, it'd be boring. What's the point? Hello, I wouldn't be here.
That's great.
But it's just being able to relate to people on their level and realizing, theology comes into play, realizing what they understand and what they don't understand. So you may have a better knowledge, whatever you want to put that under. You may have studied theology and understand the context more and understand the characters of the Bible more. You may know that Isaiah means Yahweh saves. You may know all these little facts that other people don't know. And you can't just say that to them because they have no idea. So it's up to you to be able to get a revelation on it and switch it around and be able to present it to them in a way that they understand, and it impacts them, touches their heart, and it brings them to a place of knowing God.
That's great. Good job. That's awesome. Yeah, give Adele a hand. That's fantastic. So it seems like an obvious question, but is the gospel relevant? Tom, is the gospel relevant to you? You were an atheist, weren't you?
I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
So the question, is the gospel relevant?
Is the gospel relevant?
Always, always. We're still in the same predicament we've been in forever. I think the gospel is just as relevant now as,
2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. We're all sinners. We still need God. God still exists. He has always existed. He always will. Yeah.
Yeah. And done.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
When we think about our Western affluent world, I heard a statistic today that the greatest cause of death between 18 and 35-year-olds, men and women in Australia, is suicide. And it made me think that we may be affluent in what we have, and we are, and I say it to myself all the time, we live in the top 1%. And so I try to have a grateful attitude, but there is clearly huge need in our society. And affluence that we have materially hasn't translated to spiritually and emotionally and socially. And so the gospel is more relevant now than it ever has been, I think, because people are killing themselves through lack of hope, and we have hope. We have the only hope that there is.
That's right.
The understanding of
good.
it.
Awesome. I love it. All right, so what does it mean when we say God is sovereign?
I'll go. The word sovereign really means sort of ruler, king, lord, totally the man, totally in control.
Yeah.
Like, you're the boss if you're sovereign. So the word sovereign gets thrown around when people talk about kings, for example. God is sovereign, full stop, which means that God is the king. He's Lord over all. And we happen to believe that that's whether or not you believe that. So God is there. He's in charge. You can choose to accept that and believe that and respond to that or not.
I got a cool verse that I think sums up the sovereignty of God. It's Ephesians 1:11. In him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. I think that sums up the sovereignty. It's his purpose, it's his will, it's all things, and later on it's to the purpose of his grace and his glory. So, yeah. It's
Great.
all about him. It's his will. Everything in accordance with his will for his glory.
Great.